Okay, let me make sure I'm online. Okay, hello, I'm Alex from A.P. Ink. So today I'm going to be picking up on day 19 for my interpretation of Mermay. So to go over the list, today I'm going to try number 18 here, Badminton. Number 18. So I've got a few references. That is a wide shot of a badminton court. That is a close-up on just the players. And then because this is Starfish at the Toga Olympics, we've got a reference of a toga. So I've got the same references here. But yeah, I've got a piece of sketchbook paper, a 2B pencil, some more supplies off to the side. I'm gonna try to get right into this. So this reference is like long ways, so you can see both players kind of stacked. I'm going to be doing this sideways, so one player will be here, one player will be here. I'm going to start by trying to mark out for the court. So I'm going to measure in a half inch from the side, and then just to make sure my measurement is accurate, about a quarter inch up from the bottom of the page, so the base of the court is straight. This is about 8 inches. And then from there, to try to find the center, I'm going to try to have a bit of perspective on the court, so it'll be flat, but you'll be able to see it a little bit kind of at an angle. And then I think we'll go an inch up from that line, and just to make sure my line is straight. There's probably an easier way to get a perspective angle on this court, but this is the way I'm figuring to do it. So I just measured in an inch. So that's 8 inches, 6 inches. and then just connect the dots. Okay, and then obviously it would be easier to depict the net if it was like facing the camera. So, but I'm gonna try to do the net foreshortened. So there's an attempt at a flattened foreshortened net, post and net. I think it would actually make more sense to raise that up quite a bit, because I'm not sure, aside from the ball used or the thing that they have to hit, I'm not sure the difference between a badminton net and like a tennis net. Because to have the badminton uh, netting, that I'd have to have the starfish quite small. But I'm thinking at least like that. So I think we'll probably do away with kind of the two-sided, almost three-quarter top-down view, and just have kind of a decent sized net here. I feel like the post for this is going to be a healthy diameter. So maybe a 16th of an inch, I think. Yeah, no, an eighth of an inch. It's an eighth of an inch. That might be a bit too thick. Now, I know, especially in the reference, well, in the reference it's kind of hard to see because it's straight across, but maybe to imply at least a little bellowing so that the at least part of the netting can be seen. Okay, I think we'll come back to that and focus on actually getting the characters in. I've played badminton before when I was a kid, but I don't know enough about badminton or tennis to know if there's really that much of a difference aside from tennis ball, shuttlecock. I think that's how you say it. A shuttlecock. I I'm pretty sure that's right. Let me just show you just in case you've never seen one. So there are two versions of shuttlecocks. One, this one, that I'm used to seeing. Hopefully you can see that. That might be easier to see. That's one kind. And then, which that it's easier to see, but I'm used to it with feathers like that. But another one would apparently be this, which is looks like it's some kind of weight with feathers in it versus an actual tennis ball. Okay, back on task here. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've seen a uh, racket, so I'm trying to think uh, handle versus the paddle part. If that looks like it's long enough. I'm tempted to look it up. I think I'll kind of make it up. But then there's the shape. Let me look it up really quick. I didn't think to do this before. Yeah, and I guess just to show the difference, a badminton racket versus a tennis racket. I think badminton rackets, the uh, handle part is much longer, where a tennis racket, the paddle part is much bigger. Yeah. So badminton versus tennis. Hopefully you can see that. To actually get it to work without the glare. Okay, that's a better representation. So the handle of a badminton racket is much longer. The paddle part is still is almost kind of egg shaped, whereas the tennis racket is got a shorter handle, more oval paddle. So I need to adjust the paddle a bit. And I think just for the, well, I mean, I guess even here in the reference, unless I zoom in quite a bit, you might not even be able to see the netting in the racket. It doesn't look like it's really getting picked up. So I think I can get away with not bothering to put the woven bit in the racket. I'm thinking having this guy, like, maybe he's like tossing the shuttlecock up to like hit it, and this guy's getting ready to receive it. I'm trying to decide how his back leg should be seen here. If he should be kind of like this, or a bit more wide stance, so his legs would either be in line with each other or slightly offset. This might make a bit more sense. Hopefully. I've never seen a professional game of badminton, and I've never fully seen a professional game of tennis either. Um, but to stand kind of like waiting for the target to come over so that you can hit it back, how you would stand like waiting with the racket in hand. Okay, so like that. And then to put in the target, and then to actually dress them. Try to make that look wrap around look a bit more natural. Okay. So for the court itself, it does look like There are details, but I might try to put those in after I ink it with like a white gel pen or something. So see if this actually looks okay. The shoulder part on his toga seemed like it was just floating, so let me try to fix that. Okay. I think that makes sense. So, getting into the line art, I'm going to use a 0.5 fine liner for some of the smaller details. I should actually try to finish the net before I do that. See how I can actually make this look like a net. The only way I can figure to do it is to have just the slightest bit of like bellowing of the net, but maybe to also have some of the back post kind of show up. So measuring out I was gonna have just like a sliver of the back post show up, but I don't think that's gonna read proper. So I'm gonna measure a 1/16 of an inch from this back line up. I think I'll measure to about 1/8 of an inch. Try to make sure my line is straight. Doesn't seem like my line is straight. Maybe it was just the way I was looking at it. Okay, that's the court. And then the same fine liner for some of the other finer details, like the racket. And some of the details on the toga. put in the slightest bit of detail for the weaving in the rackets, just so it doesn't look like it's just a bubble wand. Okay, I'm going to switch to a black brush pen. Okay, I'm going to give that a minute to dry, and then we'll move on to the inking. So, to start, I'm going to grab the colors that have already been established. I want to flip through what we've already done, just to refer back to kind of skin colors. So pink, orange, another paler pink, a kind of grainy purple, a different tone of orange, brown, purple, kind of salmon, blue. I'm pretty sure that was the dark matter gray. Red, blue, brown, green, another purple. Okay. Just trying to, if what I haven't done yet. I think this guy was supposed to be the pink purple. I think this is pastel pink. Okay, so I'm seeing light purple, pink purple, and red. But like, I imagine this is the pink purple that dried out. But that does not look like light purple. To me, it looks closer to this pastel pink. I think I'm gonna make one of them this light purple. I didn't grab the right color. I wanted that color. Okay, forest green for the base color of the details for their toga. Deep olive green to add shadow to that. Teal to add shadow to the fabric of the toga. Okay, and then we'll try light purple for one of these guys. Let's see how off I am. That actually was light purple, and I just wrote it down wrong. I don't think it's the same. Okay. For shadow. think dark purple is going to be way too dark. Yeah. This is bright pink. This will give the light purple a little bit of kind of a different look to use this as shadow. Okay, excuse me, let's see what else I have. I think it's gonna look really dark, especially uh, against this guy. Prussian blue. Just to shoot, excuse me, just to see what's gonna stand out, if anything, to shade that. So I've got dark purple, and I'm not sure if I still have midnight blue or dark blue here. I think that's midnight blue. So Prussian blue. And then midnight blue to add some shadow, which might not be visible. Okay, and then for the details, dark green. Wrong side. If I should put in any, at least the slightest amount of detail, like I did for the rackets in that narrow space. Okay, and then to try to pull the ground away from the upright poles, I'm gonna mark the halfway point with a white gel pen. And then because, at least in this reference, you can clearly see that the center line doesn't go all the way across, I'm gonna use those two marks I just made to try to keep my line even. I want to mark a ½ inch on either side. And then I'm going to try to connect the dots without drawing through my characters. And then to follow, okay, I think from the outer line up, I think I'm going to measure up 1/8 of an inch from the bottom to try to do this without possibly smearing that first line. And then from that outer line I'm going to measure in 1/4 of an inch and do the same here. From that top line, I'm going to measure in 1/8. I think I'll measure out first. An 1/8 of an inch. Trying to make the smallest dot. From those 2 dots, I'm going to make sure. Okay, this one is an 1/8 of an inch. This one needs to come in just a little bit. Actually, that looks good. So I'm going to connect these 2 points. And then without drawing through my characters, I'm going to connect these 2 dots. Okay, that's a 1/2 inch from that dot to that dot. I'm going to measure in from this top line an 1/8 of an inch. This messed up my camera. The only way to fix it is to end the stream and come back. I will be right back. Okay, let me see if I'm online. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm online. Okay, my browser refuses to load. I guess my internet's not that stable. I'm gonna finish this up anyway. Okay, that was... that was 1/8 of an inch. I'm gonna adjust it over to 1/8 of an inch there. That's 1/8 of an inch. That's not too bad for 1/8 of an inch. I'm gonna connect that dot to that dot without drawing through that post. Of course, I should have drawn that line first. I always do this backwards. So I'm going to connect that dot to that dot without drawing through my characters. In this post. Okay. And then I'm gonna measure an 1/8 of an inch up. Now, this is all in perspective, so hopefully it looks accurate. So connecting that line to that line without drawing through my characters. Or the center, the net post. I'm marking a 1/2 inch on either side of the center post here. And then I'm going to measure on that last white line there. I'm going to measure, I think, a 1/4 inch. Connect these. That's not right. 1/4 inch there. But I think we need to go a 1/2 inch here. Because I don't want the line to go in. I want it to look like it's going straight across. And actually, this center line needs to go all the way to the end. And then at the very far end here, I'm going to measure I think 1/4 inch. On both sides. And connect that dot to that dot. That dot there. And then the same here. And that's my attempt at the court. Okay. That took a bit longer than I thought it was going to. But I think the slightest bit of detail in between the posts to make it look like there's something there aside from thin air. So you tell me. Does it look like the full reference here? Not that one. This one. Okay. Anyways. I am gonna leave this one here. Actually, really quick, let's switch back to the list. And we'll mark off Badminton. You can't actually see that. Let me change colors. There's Badminton off the list. But if you'd like to join me for day 20, please make sure that you're following me and that your notifications are turned on so that you're notified for the next time I go live. Other than that, thank you to anybody who watched or watches. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.